What's up guys, welcome back to question number 28 of the database management video series. My name is Dinul Perera and I will be empowering your inner skills in the software engineering field. So today we have question number 28. Let's quickly jump right on to it. So if you have been in touch with us, you know that question number 28 is actually part 12 of the main question number 16. So what I did was I broke down the whole question into several parts, so it's easy for you to refer. So if you haven't watched question number 16 and the videos after that, up to question number 28, be sure to at least go through them, because you won't understand what's going on, at least if you haven't watched question number 16. So it's better if you go ahead and watch video number 16. I'll leave the link of the video in the description below, so you can go ahead and check that out. So today we'll be discussing question number 28. So question number 28, we'll tackle the questions just one by one. We have 5 questions in question number 28. So in the question, first they are asking what is the highest mark obtained in singular literature in all term examinations of all the students of class 11B. Okay, now I am supposed to filter out the highest mark for the subject of singular, but only of the students who are studying in 11B class. Okay. As usual, I am going to open my DBMS software. This is the software that I am going to execute SQL queries. As you can see, all these questions are based on SQL queries, so you have to write a query in order to answer the question. So my first question is selecting the highest mark for singular subject only for the class 11B. So what I am going to do is I am going to start off with this: select all from exam underscore marks underscore db final dot the marks table. This is the table where you have all the marks. So now I have all the marks. Then what I am going to do is I am going to inner join. I am going to inner join the student table which is in exam underscore final, and we have the student table. So I am going to inner join the student table, but I have to give a condition. So my condition is on the condition that the student underscore exam underscore mark record table, and you have the student index column, index number column, and that column and the values which are in that column should be equal to the index number of the student table. So now as you can see, I have joined the student table onto the marks table using this condition. That means I am going to equal the student's index number onto the index number of the student table. Okay. Then what I am going to do is I am going to inner join another table. So I have done 2 points so far. My first point is creating the getting the marks table. Then I am going to inner join the student table. Then what I am going to do is I am going to inner join the class table. So as you can see, in my MySQL workbench, now I have opened the MySQL workbench. In this workbench, as you can see in the ER diagram, the class table is not directly connected to the marks table. So if you want the class table, so in the question they haven't given us any details to fill out from the student table, but the case is the class table is connected to the student table, and if you want to get to the class table, you have to go through the student table. So I connected the student table, then I connected the class table. So then I am going to inner join. As you saw earlier, I am going to inner join the class table. But if I am going to inner join, I have to give a condition. So my condition is the class ID of the student table should be equal to the ID of the class table. let's execute this. Now you have the class table connected to the student table as well. Okay. Now what I am going to do is, as my third point, if you can remember, we have a subject table in the main database. I am going to inner join that one as well. So exam_marks_db final dot the subject table on the condition the subject ID of the marks table should be equal to the subject ID of the subject table. Okay. Now once you check it again, now you have the subject table connected to the last column as well. Okay. Next, what I am going to do is I am going to give the condition. So according to the question, if you go to the question again, the question says for all terms. So you don't have to specify the term. So I am not going to link the exam term table here. So I link the subject table. Then I link the class table to the student table. Now I have to give the conditions. Okay. Now my condition is, my first condition is subject name should be singular language and literature. Okay. Then my next condition is that the class name should be 11B. Okay, there's no space here. Okay. Now the class name is also 11B and the subject name is also singular language and literature. Okay. Now you have all these content, but that's not the question. The question is asking the highest mark obtained for singular language from the class 11B. So what I am going to do is I am going to mark this as, so in SQL you have a separate function called max. So I am going to include the mark. So I am going to find the maximum mark out of these values. So as the maximum mark I use this function. So once I give that function, I get the maximum mark as 99. Then I will just rename the column as highest mark for singular from 11B. Okay. Now once I run this, I get the final answer as highest mark for singular from 11B is 99. So this is the answer for the first question. Let's move on to the second one. The second question is asking what is the highest mark and the subject of Satitra Vikramasinghe's first term subjects in all subjects. Okay. The question is asking out of the total number of subjects which he set for the first term, they are asking the highest mark and the relevant subject for that. Okay. Now what I am going to do is I am going to open my SQL browser, then delete all this, then I am going to break the answer for this question into several parts. So my first point is selecting all from, since we are going to refer the marks, first I have to extract the marks table. So my marks table will have this. So once I run this, I have the marks table right here. Okay. Then what I am going to do is inner join the student table to this table. So I have to give a condition. The index number of the student table should be equal to the marks table's index column. So next what I am going to do is the condition. So Okay, next I am going to inner join. So let's just run this first with the expression now. Okay, now we have the student table connected to this. Now let's inner join the subject table. Inner join subject table on the condition subject ID of the marks table should be equal to the subject ID of the subject table. Now let's see. Okay, now we have the student table, student marks table connected with the student table and also the marks table. Next, what I am going to do is I am going to inner join the exam term table as my fifth step. Sorry, my fourth step. As my fourth step, I am going to inner join the exam term table. So the exam term table on the condition the subject ID, sorry, the exam term ID, the term ID should be equal to the term ID of the exam term table. Okay, you have to put the names of columns inside grade lessons as a standard. So now I have the exam term table connected to this as well. This is my fifth point. I am going to give the condition. So the first condition that I came up with in the question is that the first name should be Satitra according to the question. First name is Satitra. So this is the first name and this is the last name. So first name should be Satitra. And the last name should be Vikramasinghe. So once I run this, I get all the details that we filtered so far, but now we have only the details of Satitra Vikramasinghe only. Okay. Next, as my sixth point, I am going to my fifth point was giving the first name as Satitra, and my sixth point was giving the last name as Vikramasinghe, and my next point is that we have to filter out only the details of the first term. So the first term, so the term name should be equal to first term. Okay, now we have all the details which are relevant only for the first term. Okay, as my next point, as my final point, what I am going to do is, according to the question, they are asking the highest mark and the subject. So here, as you can see, the final maximum mark is from here. If you look at it, it's 85.5. So let's see whether it comes. So max mark. So once I run it, you get maximum mark is 85.5. So I'll just okay, now we have the maximum mark as 85.5. Then I'm going to rename it as highest mark. So the highest mark is 85.5, but the question is asking also the subject, so we'll get into that. Okay. Now what I am going to do is I am going to write another query. I'm going to write another query. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of this again here. Then once I replace this highest mark as with the asterisk mark, I get all the details. So out of these details, I only need the mark and the subject name. Okay, now I have all these details. Now I am going to give another condition that the mark should be the highest mark. So what I am going to do is I am going to copy the whole thing in the previous query tab, then paste it here, then delete the last semicolon. So once I run this, I get the mark of the highest subject and also the name of the highest subject. That means this student, who is Sachitra Vikramasinghe, got 85.5 as the highest subject for the first term for the subject of Sinhala language. Okay, so the whole query is a little bit lengthy, but if you want to get the answer, you must write all. Okay, so that's the end of the second question. My third question is, find the name and the mark of the students who scored between 70 and 90 marks. Okay, so they have given a range in this question. Okay, let's see. In the subject of mathematics for the first term. Okay, so we don't have to mix up with the class table because they haven't specified any details about the class, but we need all the rest of the tables. So I'll be needing the student table, as they are asking the name of the student, and I'll be using the marks table, that's 2. So from the marks table I can get these two values also. Then I'll be needing the term table, then I'll be needing the subject table. Altogether that's 4 tables. So let's see what we are going to do. Okay, I'm going to delete all of this in the query tab. First of all, I'm going to select all details from the student table. Now I have all the details. So from here onwards, I will connect the student table in the condition equal to the index number of the student table. Okay. Next, I'll join, as my third point, I'm going to join the exam term table. So we go in this here exam final. So exam term. Only you have to separate the condition from the query using on. So marks table, we have the term ID, that should be equal to the term ID of the exam term table. Okay. Now we have all the details with the exam term table, the student table, and also the marks table. So far we have connected 3 tables. Okay. Next, as my fourth point, I am going to inner join the subject table. So the subject table on the condition subject ID should be equal to the subject ID of the subject table. Okay. Now we have the subject table, the marks table, the student table and the exam table connected to this like this. Okay. Next what I am going to do is I am going to give the conditions, the final conditions. So as my first condition I am going to give, let's see the question. Here we have the name, we have to select the name and the mark. We have to mention this range, and these two should be the first two conditions. So the where, use the where clause, and the subject name should be mathematics and the term name should be equal to first term. Okay. Now here the term name as a first term and the subject as mathematics. Then what I am going to do is I am going to filter out the range. So, and the mark should be between 70 and 90. If you can remember in the previous videos, we discussed this function, the between function. So you have to separate a range using this between and. So between 70 and 90 means the mark should be between 70 and 90. So now we get all the details of the subjects which will score between 70 and 90 only. Okay. Now I don't need all the details, I only need the name and the mark of the student. So I will be needing the first name, the last name and the mark first name, last name and the mark. So it's okay. So according to that we got all these details, the first name, last name and the mark of all the subjects for the term of first term. So for first term Madara Vanasekara got 80 and Sachitra Vikramasinghe got 78.25. Now here we are considering only the subject of mathematics. Okay. So that's the end of the third question. Okay. Our fourth question is find the subject and the mark with the highest marks obtained in mathematics and science. Okay, we have only two subjects here in Amanda Moses' first term examination. Okay. Now here also we don't have to consider the class table. We have to connect only four tables. So our four tables are, first one is the marks table, that's the first one. Second one is the subject table. Third one is the exam term table. And the fourth one is the student table. So it's better if you connect the student table first. The student table should be first, and the marks table second, subject table third, and the examination table last. Okay. So let's connect that. Just clean up this whole query. So selecting all columns from the marks table. Now we have all the details of the marks. Next, we are joining the student table on the condition the index number of the student table, of the marks table should be equal to the index number of the student table. Okay. Now we have the student table and the marks table connected. Next we'll go on to the subject table. So there's no specific order, and I'm just going to filter out which is best for the answer. So I'll be selecting the subject table on the condition that the subject ID of the marks table should be equal to the subject ID of the subject table. Okay. Now we have the subject table connected as well. As you can see, last we have the subject table. Next, finally I am going to inner join. Sorry, we have to inner join the exam term table on the condition the term ID of the student table should be equal to the term ID of the exam term table. Okay. Now we have all the details connected together with the exam term table. Now what we have to do is we have to give the conditions. So my first condition is, let's look at the question again. So our first condition is that the name should be among the nonces. So their first name should be Amanda and last name should be Moses. So let's check. Okay, now we have all the details of Amanda Moses only. Okay. As my next condition, to separate conditions as we have using the keyword and. So in the question we have the first term. So the term name should be first term. Okay, now we have all the details only for the first term, and the subject name should be mathematics and science. Okay. Now here we have all the details, that is all the subject details. Now we need only mathematics and science. So and the subject name should be, so it's not only one subject, we have two subjects. So as you can remember in the previous videos, we did if you are equaling only one value, we have to use the term equal, but if you are equaling more than one value, you have to use the term in. So that's actually the theory behind subqueries. In subqueries, you also get values more than one. That means from the subquery, the theory behind subqueries, you put a query inside a query. So when you put the inner query, that means a query which is inside the main query, if there are more than one outputs from that query, you equal that to the main query using the term in. So here what I am going to do is, there are two values that the subject name can take. So one is mathematics. So this should be like this. Mathematics, and or it can be science. Okay. Now once I done this, I have only the details of science and mathematics only. As you can see, the subject name is only science and mathematics. Okay. Now, out of these two subjects, they are asking the subject which has the highest mark. Okay. Now the subject which has the highest mark, I'll use the function max for that. So mark. So let's just before we are executing the query. So you have 90 for maths and 75 for science. So once I run this, you get the mark for mathematics only. So now what I am going to do is, along with this column, I am going to, before this column, I am going to give the subject name, subject underscore name, comma maximum mark. So once I run this, I get the name of the subject also. But here you must remember that if you are using a column name next to this type of function, that means this is a function actually. You put the you are going to find the maximum mark in the marks column, and you are going to input it here. So if you are going to mention the name of a column next to it, you can use it only if the table has only at least 2 rows. So if you have more than that, you can't use this technique. So once I run this, you get the subject name equal max mark. So I'll just rename the column as highest mark. Now you have the subject name and the highest mark is, for mathematics you have 9. For the final question, so that's the end of the 4th question. The final question is asking Madara Vanasekara. Find for Madara Vanasekara, you have to find the highest mark for mathematics and science and Sinhala language and literature. That means for all 3 subjects. And you have to find it only for the second term. Now you have to connect 4 tables. That means one is the subject table, the other one is the student table, and the other one is the marks table, and the final one is the exam term table. Okay. First, what I am going to do is I am going to print out all of this. I just close this query tab because we don't need multiple query tabs to make our questions simpler. So first I am going to select all details from the marks table. I have all the details from the marks table. Next I am going to inner join the student table. So inner join the database, and you have the student table. Then the condition is on the marks table student index number should be equal to the index number of the student table. Okay, now once I run this, I have the subject table connected to the student table. Next, inner joining the subject table. Next, we have the subject table, and the condition is that the subject ID of the marks table should be equal to the subject ID of the subject table. Okay, now we have the subject table connected to this as well. Next, I am going to inner join the exam term table. exam timetable on the condition that the term ID of the student marks table should be equal to the term ID of the exam term table. Okay. Now we have the exam term table connected to this as well. Okay. Now we have altogether 4 tables connected. One is the main marks table. Next we have the student table. Next we have the subject table, and last we have the exam term table. So altogether that's 4. Let's look at the question again. So the question is asking highest mark for all 3 subjects for the second term. So first I have to give the condition that the student name is Madara Vanasekara. So next we are up to the conditions. So where first name should be Madara and the last name should be Vanasekara. So I'll just run this query. Now we have details of Madara Vanasekara for all the terms, and for all the subjects. Now we have to fill it out only for the second term. So and the term name should be, according to question, it's for the second term. Okay. Now we have details only for the second term only. So, and since they have, now it's true that there are only 3 subjects, but as they have mentioned the names of all 3 subjects, we have to give that as a condition as well. So I'm going to give that. So, and the subject name should be, so as there are 3 values, we are going to equal 3 values. We can't use the operation equal, we have to use the operation in. So that should be equal to one is mathematics, other one is science, and the next one is Sinhala language and literature. Okay. Now we have all the details as in the previous step. So I am going to find out the highest mark out of this. So using the function maximum, you can use maximum mark, and I am going to rename it as the highest mark. So now I have the highest mark as 85. So 85 is for Sinhala language and literature, but as they are not asking us the name of the subject, we can just mention that the maximum mark as the highest mark, and we don't need to mention the details of the subject. Okay, so that's the end of the 5th question, and that's also the end of question number 28. So I'll see you guys in the next video, that is question number 29. We'll be discussing part 13 of make question number 16. So I'll see you guys then. Bye guys.